Welcome back. Now we'll be having our weekly energy update with Dan McTeague, Senior Petroleum Analyst at Gaswizard.ca. All yours.
Well, thank you, Nima. This is really the last week, I guess, of 2022, and what a tumultuous year it's been pretty much everywhere. But that obviously doesn't exclude gasoline prices, energy prices. We've had it really good, as we've been talking about over the past few weeks. These are prices that we haven't seen going back to early December of last year. And of course, helped here in the province of Ontario and other provinces by governments moving back a little bit on taxes. But I can't imagine this is going to continue. Certainly, when the federal government plans not just one, but two carbon tax increases that are going to hit you in 2023. And so before I give an outlook on 2023, let's sort of just look at the lay of the land and say, what you're seeing right now at about 5 cents a liter. So it doesn't really matter where you are. As early as Christmas Day, Sunday, you're going to see gas prices move up 4 to 5 cents a liter across the country. And yes, even the regulated maritime provinces are going to see that come the end of the week. But this comes at a time in which, while many of us are struggling to make ends meet, we see energy inflation creating overall inflation, in which the Bank of Canada is responding by trying to increase interest rates to respond to that inflation. And of course, the deflationary effect it's having on the Canadian dollar. It takes 135 and a half, 136 pennies to buy a US dollar. Despite oil moving to what looks like about $90 a barrel, it's pretty clear that when you consider the overall impact of the weak Canadian dollar, that it's adding, mightily to that inflationary fight. It's interesting, Nima, that we have so many talking heads out there, mentioning inflation, but refusing to acknowledge that green policies are driving this. While we're at it, the federal government isn't just satisfied with two carbon taxes, isn't satisfied with the emission caps, which are going to stop the Canadian economy dead in its tracks, destroy the revenue coming from the oil and gas sector, which is by far, in a way, the most prosperous. It's the biggest exporter that we have. They now want to make sure that you and I are driving electric vehicles. I just want to ask a question, because I drive a lot from here to Peterborough, from Toronto to Peterborough all the time. I'm going to be heading up there. I don't see a lot of electric vehicles right now working. And I certainly don't see them in Western Canada, where temperatures have plummeted to minus 30, minus 40 in some cases. The reality is that what people want in terms of what the government's seeking is simply not practical. And for an economy like ours, for a country that is the coldest anywhere in the world by far, it's clear that the technology and the wishful thinking are going to eventually conflict with the public's interest. You cannot have the economy come to a standstill. Electric vehicles, as they were in the 1920s, when people walked away from them, are not ready for prime time. We don't have battery storage capabilities. We're going to be using a lot of minerals. We're going to be using a lot of other forms of energy in order to extract those minerals. And of course, countries like China and the Democratic Republic of Congo, where children have to extract cobalt by hand. Want to thank woke Canadians for this. Now, I realize for some people this will be controversial, but I've worked in the automotive industry. It's public relations for Toyota for many years. The number one manufacturer of vehicles in this world is not interested in going down the EV craze. And that's exactly what it is. If Canada wants to become like California, be cool and trendy, then get the weather you have in California. And oh, by the way, they did have blackouts and brownouts. And of course, last summer, we saw several occasions where the state pleaded with EV drivers not to plug in because the grid couldn't handle it. We'll discuss a little bit more of that in 2023, but I think people had best be prepared for what is going to be a pretty significant rise in energy prices. As far as diesel, oil, and gasoline are concerned, January looks like about a net increase of 10 to 15 cents a liter, even higher for diesel. And so as we end 2022, a great year of trying to recover, we know that inflation and other factors are really driving a lot of consumers to the point where they have to consider how they're going to manage to make ends meet. In 2023, that struggle is going to continue, and don't take my word for it. We've mentioned it many, many times here that we are going to see a rather interesting increase in prices for energy. We've also pointed out that energy prices cannot remain this low given the fundamentals of divestment over the past 12 to 14 years. All of those proverbial chickens are coming home to roost. They're coming in the form of much higher prices, Nima. So as we head to 2023, best wishes to you and all of your viewers. And we look forward to providing updates in terms of gas prices for 2023, as well as energy prices. And remember, of course, at the end of the day, those prices tend to be very, very much in a state of flux. We'll see you next year. Thanks for having me again, Nima.
All right, thanks for that, Dan. Again, that was Dan McTeague, Senior Petroleum Analyst at Gaswizard.ca.